Welcome all to this session. My name is Niels, CTO and co-founder of Devoteam G-Cloud, and Koen Bosmans, Senior System Manager Systems. The S was important,
with an S,
sorry,
important
systems.
Difference.
At Melexis, and Koen was actually a great counterpart during the project, and we will explain a bit how we managed this entire journey. That was just said. So first gonna give a high overview of what Melexis is. That will be done by Koen. We will go into the migration strategy we used from the as-is into the to-be. I'll dive a bit deeper in the approach we took, and Koen will share some results after that on how this migration is about to end by now. So Koen, Melexis, tell us more about it.
Oh, it's an awesome company, of course. I worked there already for 23 years, so that means it's an awesome company, otherwise you won't stay. But what is Melexis? For those who do not know us, we're a Belgian company. Well, of course, we're located worldwide, but we make mainly chips and sensors for the automotive industry. We also make it for adjacent markets, as it is called, so which is like washing machines and smart buildings and these kind of things. For those who get an idea, these days we do about, I believe it's 15 chips in every car, new car that rolls out of the manufacturing, comes from us. If we go to, for example, like a Tesla, that goes up more than 40 chips from us. If you have all these nice ambient lighting in these cars, in the new cars these days, that brings a lot more chips for us. That's for every light in there, that's at least one chip. But we also do e-mobility in general. Other things that you maybe know is fans in PCs and these kind of things. So the controller for the fan, that's most of the times it's our chip. That's what we do. We have a turnover of about 650 million euros. We aim for the 1 billion euro. That's right about on the horizon somewhere. Well, I hope gives you an idea what we do. So our strategy. So we grow into a cloud-first strategy. We first had an on-prem first strategy where we do everything ourselves. We do not use external partners and these kind of things. We have a very strong team to build infrastructure and these kind of things. But we saw that cloud is needed for us to do our operations in the future. And therefore, we started with cloud, with Google Cloud, because we were already a Google customer. And we start seeing, how do we need to work in cloud? Because it's a new environment. You can't do the same as on-prem. There's some differences there. And from those lessons that we learned, from the cloud strategy, we built, in cloud industrialization, as we call it internally. This gives a very good base for the future, how you need to work with cloud. And we make a strategy on that. We rolled out our first cloud instances there, but we saw, it's not perfect the first generation, so we needed additional help, and therefore Devoteam came into the picture as well. So why do we go cloud? The shift left approach. We have also resource issues. Finding good people is a struggle these days, so we want to have let people do more by the rest of the business, but in a more automated way. So the more you can automate, things will go much smoother and much faster. Of course, automations will also bring business value and so on. Adapting to market requirements. I think every company has the same issues there. We need to go faster, more automation and these kind of things. So we scale up and down much faster. You see also with COVID, we had to adopt very fast. And you need to do some investments there or not. And mainly for a new solutions. In the past, we had to plan like 5 years ahead. What will we do with storage, for example? You plan far in ahead. How much capacity do you need? Well, in cloud, you do not need that anymore. So the cost will reduce there also for CapEx. The as-is situation. So we have multiple data centers. It's most of the time on sites. We have also dedicated data centers also. They're all VMware based. Originally, we are an open source based company. We do a lot of things open source. But with VMware, we found a very good base to to standardize all the things that we have. That's also a very strong thing that we do, standardize everything, all the systems that we have as much as possible. Then you need a very good foundation. So you have the hardware, of course, VMware on top, and then whatever we have on top, most of the time it's Linux-based. We also have NetApp in the backend. So our VMware images are located on NetApp, so we can easily swap from machine to machine to machine. That's often done these days. And yeah, we have legacy environments, new environments, and legacy dedicated maybe Windows machines or very old machines that you cannot update anymore because some legacy application is running on it. But we also have new environments. We're working for more than 10 years with Kubernetes, for example, on-prem. And you would say, yeah, but that's stupid to build that on top of VMware because it's redundant by itself and so on. Yes, we know, but yeah, that's the standard these days. It's a large organization. You have to make people also be aware that things can be different. But anyway. The to-be situation. So like I said in the beginning, we wanted to have a better way to go to cloud. So we asked Devoteam, can you help us with that? So we both together thought about a new way of doing that. The target was to move our current biggest data center that we have. It represents more or less half of what we do in Melexis, and move that to Google Cloud. We decided to go for a lift and shift approach, and then in a later phase we will industrialize it to cloud-native solutions. Because we do not want to run double costs. We do not want to have a data center and on Google Cloud at the same time, because that costs a lot of money, of course. We will move to GKE, GCE, and GCVE. So normal machines, VMware, and Kubernetes. And also we decided to go for NetApp in the cloud. Why NetApp, not standard storage? We do a lot of standard storage in cloud as well, but we have already NetApp on-prem. And there are some unique features on NetApp that you do not have in Google Cloud today. Like deduplication, for example, is one of these things, and we're heavily reliant on that. So we decided, for now, we will keep on using NetApp in cloud, and we'll see in the future phase where we will industrialize the applications to cloud-native solutions. Maybe we can remove the NetApp or whatever we need to do. Additionally, we also invest heavily on security. So in the whole design that we did, security is designed on top of mind. And we can't pass it anymore. We also have the security architect will let us know when things are not right in the correct way. And like I said, self-service is important. So that's in a later phase. We're not there yet. Everything that we do in cloud, it's also from the first generation that we have, needs to be 100% automated. So we do not touch basically all user acceptance and production instances. Test developers can do whatever they want. But we use Terraform to automate everything and to deploy everything. So it's basically single button click, wait X amount of time, and everything is running in cloud for a certain project. So that's really nice way of working. That's for you, right?
That's my slide. So let me take you a bit through the project and the process. Of course, we can come in with our methodology, with our expertise, but there's always this customer environment, right? We don't know what all these engineers who are working there for 20 years have between their ears. So we have to do quite some discovery for us to grasp the basics, at least, on different areas: networking, security, governance, operations, these kind of things. So we run quite some workshops initially to actually then come to a target architecture, which we implement in a plan phase, where we also actually have a lot of information about these workloads that need to be migrated. So we can actually plan the migration in the second phase. So hopefully that third phase is a very, very boring migration phase where everything goes according to plan. I'll get back to that in a minute. The last part is, of course, optimizing once you're in the cloud, and you can start leveraging more cloud-native tools like Koen is mentioning, which is, of course, also the next step in this project. Now, what do we end up with? This is a high level, very detailed architectural, but just to give you some pointers and some ideas of what we focused on during these workshops and what we came up with. Like Koen said, there's a strong need for security in the cloud. So, of course, there's already a production UAT and test separation, where we then really want to isolate production workloads from testing and UAT, so that somebody with a bit higher privilege permissions in testing cannot actually do anything in the production environment, which is pretty important. But then this problem comes, of course, because there's production systems like the LDAP and GitLab to deploy applications that are running in production, but they need access to test and UAT as well, because GitLab is also self-managed, self-hosted. So that actually needs a test environment, but in that testing environment, you're not going to see that as the production for test. So there's an actual production environment that has to connect to test. Well, we're not going to connect these because then you're back at where you started. So we actually have shared services projects with these tools that are shared across all environments, and then the production shared services can talk to development, test, UAT, and prod. So the actual prod workloads are not exposed to the test. First time I'm going to say thankful for the not transitive peering in GCP. And then one other thing, of course, is the VMware stack, which is not directly hosted here, but GCVE still goes attached to these production test and UAT projects. And we have Kubernetes clusters and VMs actually in the same project here, that is using the network coming from the central networking project, which means network isolation. So networking team manages these projects. The actual services, they run in those isolated ones. You might ask, why a one-on-one? Well, like Koen said, it's a strategy to move to the cloud as fast as possible. So we move them as is into like, I don't want to say a dumpster, but they all go into this centralized project for production. But the goal is, of course, to later on build a lot of satellite service projects on there when these services that were migrated one-on-one will be refactored or re-architected. So, like I mentioned, we took the lift and shift approach, but it doesn't mean we don't take quick wins, right? Like the segregation of the network, adding more security. These are all very quick wins which you can instantly rely upon, maximizing the use of Terraform as well. Plus some cloud-native tools like GCVE and GKE for a managed version of what Melexis was running themselves first. We still had to use GCVE while we want to go to Compute Engine as much as possible for a lower cost and already have a modernization step in place. Actually, GCVE was needed for some older operating systems of some toolings that were like the company doesn't patch them anymore. You're stuck on an older OS. You don't know how it's going to react on a new deployment. So these workloads stick on GCVE, which is VMware hosted on Google Cloud. And there's still a small on-prem footprint for licensing and cost reasons for the traditional suspects in this.
Maybe one note on the lift and shift. So a lot of companies are maybe afraid to lift and shift because you have a lot of legacy applications and you see, okay, maybe they can't be migrated and these kind of things. We had that in the beginning as well. We had a big ball of what we will do with that. And the further in the future that we were talking and migrating and these kind of things, that ball became smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah, indeed.
So we found solutions for it. We could upgrade then or some other things that we can do. So if you really want to do it, it's just put some effort in it and it's really, really going to work.
Mm-hmm. You can also not just know everything up front, right? We have the discovery phase, we do that planning, but once you are migrating, so many things are popping up that you just cannot all see up front. And as well, you might end up with a lot less scarier set of migrations than you initially expect when you do that first introductory workshop. So, like I told you, we have the plan. Now we're going to migrate, and that's going to be boring, right? Well, not so much, because like I said, always things pop up. For example, cloud DNS. We want a DNS forwarding to on-prem over a VPN connection. Should be easy, right? No, cloud DNS comes in with a public IP. Nothing you can do about it. GKE control plane. If you host a Kubernetes cluster, maximum security from the security workshops. Long discussion, public endpoint, private endpoint, for sure private nodes. What do you do with the endpoint? We twisted like 5 times on that subject. You start with, okay, finally we'll do public. Then, still do private, we don't have an issue to do private. And then you come up with the fact that actually GitLab is running in the shared services and needs to deploy in the Kubernetes cluster, which is in the regular production project, which it cannot reach, of course. So all these things, once you change your mind during the project, you might think, oh yeah, that's better for security, let's take it that way. But actually you forget some reasons of why you initially thought of doing it otherwise. There was still a discussion ongoing in the planning phase on using Logs.io, which they were using, or moving everything to cloud operations. Of course, some interconnect issues, and an important one here, VPN bandwidth. We all know it's not the ideal way to migrate massive amounts of data, and for sure for the container registry where all the artifacts were stored, that appeared to be a little bottleneck. Same for NetApp. That is the bulk of data that had to be migrated. Of course, VPN issues, but also the fact that the Migrate for Compute Engine tooling actually does not see NetApp mounted disks as a disk, so it wouldn't migrate them. So that's actually why we still had to use NetApp, while we initially thought, okay, we can skip NetApp and we can just use Compute Engine disks. We got back with NetApp halfway the planning phase. And of course, if you move your vServer, then your migration setup needs to be redone. All some interesting lessons learned while you are being a happy camper doing your migration waves.
Maybe on the VPN, quickly one note, something where we missed in the beginning as well. So you have your data center, you have a big pipe to the data center to do your normal operations. So okay, that's so many bandwidth. Or VPN, well, it's more or less the same bandwidth. They should be able to handle it. But if you're migrating from data center to cloud, you're migrating machines which are interconnecting to each other. So they have maybe 10 gigabits between each other and these kind of things. And suddenly you put it in cloud, and they also need to communicate in 10 gigabits. And then, ooh, this is not going to work anymore. And then you have to rethink that idea.
Yeah, exactly. So you can prepare all you want, which is good, but don't be afraid when things pop up during the project. That's also why we work in an agile methodology. Melexis is even front runner in that idea, I must say. Everything is done in the 2-week sprints. Migration waves were mapped onto sprints. And yeah, having a customer that flexible actually helps with getting the project to a good end, I must say. So we still
failure is an option at us, but you need to continue always.
We have 10 more minutes for you to talk about our results.
What will we say about it? Yeah, GCVE test UAT deprecation. To be fair, GCVE does not come cheap, so we made a decision for everything that runs on GCVE, so VMware in cloud. We're only going to run the production instances there, so not test and UAT. We keep them high. We deprecated them because it's useless to have a lot of machines on test and on UAT. I have 2 separate instances and a third for production. But yeah, development is sometimes done, not always done, because we have so many products to maintain. So that's a very high cost to run. So we decided we run everything on our production instance. Data center planned to be closed. That is planned for later this year. So normally by the end of Q3, I think, in the direction of Q4, we will close our data center, our biggest data center. So like I said, it's more or less half of the infrastructure of Melexis that we will have placed in Google Cloud, which is not bad, of course. Trusted connectivity, yeah, interconnect. So like Niels was saying, we were doing everything with standard internet VPNs in the beginning, or first generation of cloud, which was sufficient. Sometimes we had some issues, but okay, it was stable. That's the most important thing. Yeah, with bandwidth issues, which I explained earlier, we decided to go to interconnect to handle that capacity and certainly the stability of decent leased line type of connectivity to cloud. Yeah, and like I said, so next is to focus on cloud-native applications again. So everything which we put in that big bowl that Niels was saying, we will eventually, within X amount of time, redesign them to cloud-native applications, because we have done it in the past already with on-prem applications, and we saw that the benefit of making it cloud-native is so much bigger, because you can easily scale them up and down and whatever you need to do there, which is much more difficult to do it on-prem, because you need all the infrastructure there to handle that. Yeah, and I hope certainly by the end of the year that we're a very happy customer. At the moment, everything goes pretty smooth, I would say. Of course, there are issues. And then, yeah, that will be a big milestone to close the data center, because we have that data center already for about 20 years, I think. Yeah.
We will have a tennis hall then.
Yeah, if somebody needs a data center, we know a place.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
And then who knows, in the future, we talked about this data center, the biggest one, but we also have infrastructure locally on sites. We have about 17 sites worldwide, from Japan to America and everything in between. There will be a lot of moving of those applications which run now locally, will also go to cloud as well in the future. But then we're talking about maybe 5 years, or maybe a little bit further.
Okay, cool. We still have 1:50 left for people in case they have some questions. You can always grab one of us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'll focus on one, and that is the cost benefit you are claiming for on-prem versus cloud. Sorry. So you mentioned that if you run on-prem, you have a certain cost, and if you move to cloud, before you actually do the refactoring, so a lift and shift approach, that you would save some cost. But wouldn't you also have that cost in cloud? I mean, if you do a lift and shift approach, I guess your running cost will be higher, because you have overhead of your VM environment. And if you do a refactoring in the cloud, then you also have like a double environment you need to run.
Yeah, you need to take that cautious, of course, on how you do that. The lift and shift, okay, we know that's more or less the same price. And of course, it's also part of negotiations on the volume that we do in these kind of things. And that was the initial intake from Google as well. Maybe I can be fair on that. And they say, hey, we challenge you on, can we run your infrastructure in cloud? And I said, well, you can't do it cheaper than us. And then the negotiations started, and we start talking, and we ended up on a deal. So, which is good.
So that's the trick then.
No, but yeah.
Thanks.
No, but it's we have also in our company a lot of people who are always have been saying, important people in the company, like, I know cloud is too expensive, it's too expensive, it's too expensive. But it's what can you do in cloud? That's the important. What value does it bring for your business? It doesn't need to be cheaper. What value can it bring? Like we say, we can now scale up with infrastructures as much as we want, what the market needs, because we currently, our operations or real business that we do is 100% occupied. We're expanding, but that takes time expanding on the physical offices, production plants. But we also need to expand the infrastructure. And we have seen that in the 23 years that I worked there, we've seen certain points in time that things go so fast that you basically need to have an office up and running in a week. That's something you can't do, or it's very difficult to do in physical form and physical devices. But in cloud, you can say, okay, spin up a project, we design whatever they need to do. Connectivity is there already, and they can work wherever they are in the world. And that's the situation in where we are today. Our employees are really worldwide. They work from home. So they're not a real office anymore. So that's
and maybe one important thing as well, the lift and shift is not the end state, right? The end state is indeed to be able to use cloud native as much as possible, which this is just the prerequisite for it. So I wouldn't just go to cloud just for TCO, but really for that cloud adoption in the long run.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think Charlotte is gonna...
Any other question? Yes.
I was interested if you already can shed some light, or do you have what your plans are for the focus on the cloud native re-platforming? How do you think to approach that?
Well, approach is just architecting it. That's the difficult thing. We do a lot of in-house development because the business we're in is you have to develop your own applications because there's basically not much on the market to select from. If there is something on the market, it's so crazy expensive that you don't want to pay for it. So we have a lot of developers in-house who develop own applications, and they're capable in the meantime, because we trained them to be also cloud experts, to redevelop it in a different way. But of course, you need to sit together and talk about it. How can we do it different? Because the mindsets of people also need to change. You're so long on a classical way of working, and now you have possibilities. And most often you see it, and probably you see it with other customers as well, you stick to the old situation, but that's not the right thing to do. You need to rethink and see how can we benefit from all the new tools that we have.